All right. How is everyone? Excited to get started? I know I'm new to some of you. I'm going to give everyone another minute or so to get the ball rolling and get everyone in here. Today, we're going to be talking about online leads. My name is Brant Levine. I am the Director of Account Management here at Inside Real Estate. And I'm just excited to be here with you, help you understand inside lead flow a little bit better. What I'm going to give you a little background on, my background was in residential real estate, just like yourselves. I was formerly the director of sales and operations for a high producing team in New York. I came over to Inside Real Estate about 8.5 months ago. And what I'm going to do with you all today is guide you through a template that I used to use on when I was coaching my team members on online lead conversion. So if you have any questions or anything, pop them into the chat. And if not, I'm just going to go through this. And I really, really hope that this presentation changes some preconceived notions that you might have had about online lead flow. So without further ado, again, chat button, use it if you have questions. And if not, I hope you enjoy the show. So hold on one second while we have this slight technical difficulty. All right, there we go. All right, very cool, very cool. All right, so today we're going to be talking about success. This success meetup is about internet leads. I'm going to start here. Every lead is a good lead. Every lead is a good lead. What do I mean by that? We don't have a crystal ball to necessarily know when these leads are going to convert. So I want us to come in with the mindset that every single lead is good. Every single lead has merit, and every single lead is worth working with. I'm going to make this claim right now and make this statement that every single person that comes in as a lead deserves a meeting. I want to let that land there for just a quick second. Every lead that comes in, every person deserves a meeting. I want to go over some misconceptions. Some people say some lead sources are better than others. Speed to lead is the only thing that matters. I'm going to call these folks until they buy or die. And with KV Core, maybe I'm just going to set my platform and forget about it. Okay. I want to go over these as misconceptions. Why would I go over this as misconceptions? Well, let's talk about the first one. Some lead sources are better than others. Let's define that. What's better? What is better? Does better mean that the person is further along in their home buying or home selling journey? Doesn't necessarily mean they're better. It just means it's earlier or later. And the best way to really notice this is the price point of the leads. More inexpensive leads tend to be a little further in their journey. More expensive leads tend to be a little further along for the most part. But that's neither here nor there. When we define better, this is some of the things I want you to think about. Speed to lead is the only thing that matters. I'm going to call something out. Every single person, for the most part, knows a real estate agent. So when we get to a lead early on, does it give us a better chance of converting that lead? And the answer is maybe. Maybe. Why am I not saying definitively it gives us a better opportunity? Because we don't necessarily know. I'm going to give you a wild statistic. And you may already know this, and this is from the National Association of Realtors. There is an 85% chance a new real estate agent won't make it past year one. There's a 99% chance they won't make it past year three. Those of you who have been in the industry for a long time, know this to be true, especially when you go to those networking events year after year after year, and you stop seeing some people, but you start recognizing the true players and the true lasters in the game. So when I say that most people know a real estate agent, most people do. Will that real estate agent last for a long time? I don't know. And when we talk about speed to lead, we have to have this in our minds that there is a possibility that the person already knows somebody else. And the speed may not necessarily help us in this situation. So what do? I'm going to get to that in a little bit as I go through this. I'm going to call them until they buy or they die. Beat on your chest. That's very Jordan Belfort, right? For those of you who've seen Wolf of Wall Street. It doesn't necessarily help you. Why do I say that? Different people like to be communicated in different ways. I'm one of them. You're probably one of them as well. Think about it. How do you like to be communicated with? Do you like to be texted, emailed, called? Your buyers are the same. Do they like to be called in the morning, in the evening, in the afternoon, during their lunch break, right before they leave work? Who knows? Who knows? But at the end of the day, what we do know is that if we're just picking up the phone and dialing them over and over and over and over again, it doesn't necessarily work, especially in today's day and age. That might have worked in the 70s and 80s and 90s, but today we have a more discerning audience. So we have to think a little more strategically and utilize technology to diversify our touch point portfolio. What do I mean by touch point? Email, text, call, newsletter, blog, right? How do we communicate? Social media. And then some folks, they come in and they say, well, I'm going to set my platform and forget all about it. That is not going to work because, again, we have to think of that strategic buyer or seller and how do we communicate with them effectively. Let's talk about the client journey. Let's talk about the client journey. What does a buyer or seller go through? Well, let's talk about the beginning. How do you know, right? They're a little unsure. They're afraid to commit. They're not sure of their needs. How do we engage that client? We have to be a consultant with them. We have to teach them, support them. Again, I'm going to go back to what I said in the beginning. Everyone deserves a meeting. Everyone. With my team, when I was running it, one of the things we used to say is don't ask for a pre-approval up front. And this is a little groundbreaking. What do you mean don't ask for pre-approval up front? Well, before I was in the director of sales and ops for a high producing team, I was working at Zillow. And some of the information that I got there was incredibly valuable. When we asked for a pre-approval up front, it diminished our ability. It diminished our ability to set that appointment by almost 80%. We were 80% more successful when we did not ask for a pre-approval up front. And then I'm going to go one step further. We were 90% successful in setting the appointment when we asked this question first. When would you like to see that property? When would you like to see that property? When we asked that up front, and did not ask for the pre-approval in that first phone call, it almost guaranteed us a meeting. And I know some of you folks are saying, but wait a second, why would I meet with someone that's not pre-approved? Why would I do that to myself? And I'm going to get to that. But I want you to think of this person that's you're meeting with, not just as a one-time buyer or a transactional. I want you to start getting into the mindset that this person is actually a seller. And I'm going to get to that in a second. But we're going to believe that every single person deserves a meeting. We're going to meet with them right up front. And some of you are saying, like, Brant, what about these? Sometimes I get Mickey Mouse leads. And we're going to get to that. We're going to get to that. The second phase of the journey is when they're deciding. They have a price in mind. They kind of know what style home they like or don't like, but they're still kind of unsure. Again, focus on the homes. Act like a teacher and start addressing their financing. Start getting that finance conversation in. One thing that I used to use all the time is bringing up closing costs. Because we found that even a lot of mortgage professionals did not bring up closing costs. And what I did here, what my team did here, was leverage that conversation to prove that we were a subject matter expert. Again, if we're thinking of them transactionally, we may not want to meet with them or work with them. But if we stop thinking of them transactionally, start thinking about this lifetime value cycle that I'm creating with that person, even if they don't buy with me, who do you think they're going to start referring their friends and family to? That becomes us, right? And that becomes you. Now, when they're shopping, they make it clear, right? They make it very clear. They're ready to look. They have a clear picture of their moving date. They have an area and price in mind. Take them out. Take them out right away, right? Right away. Start scheduling showings. It's go time, folks. I'm giving you all this. I'm giving you all this. And you might be curious, which lead flow systems work best for each of these? And I will give it to you. In the beginning part of their journey, Typically, those leads are coming from Google or Facebook. In that deciding phase, these are the folks that are coming to your open houses. These are the folks that are your hand raisers that are clicking on the search alerts and they're looking at a lot of homes during that deciding phase. They're interacting with your property boosts, the shopping phase. These are the folks that are literally texting you back right now. And I want everyone at the end of this, go check your text messages in your KV Core platform and see who asked for a showing that you didn't get back to, because these are the folks that are ready to go. It's go time. Okay. Time, money, time value of money. I know some of you are having PTSD back to your real estate exams and going, oh my God, here we go again. Time value of money. What does that mean? Money today is more valuable than money tomorrow, right? And for those of us who have seen inflation go up and down, we really know that to be true. The time value of money is very important to understand here, because if you're a new agent and you're watching this, you're watching me for the first time, you're joining the Success Meetup for the first time, welcome. If you're not new, you probably say, well, I have more money than I have time. If you're new, you have more time than money. And you have to recognize this. And I'm going to give you something that we study intimately here at Inside Real Estate. We know that agents who are adding 10 to 15 top funnel leads to their database every single month are substantially more successful than the ones who are not. Now, some of you are saying, wait a second. I don't want to pay for lead flow or anything like that. I love lead flow. I'm a big fan of it, but I'm not suggesting that. I also believe that small business owners should throw around nickels like they're manhole covers. Okay, be cognizant of your money and your dollars. So if I have money, I don't mind paying for lead flow because I don't have the time to knock on doors. I don't have the time to host open houses. I don't have the time to generate those leads. But I do have money to start bringing in that lead flow. Maybe I need to hire an ISA or pay for a service that warms up my leads, maybe, depending on how much time I'm constrained to. But if I'm a brand new agent, think about all the ways to add 10 to 15 leads. We had an agent on our team who's from Minnesota. I'm in New York. He was brand new here. He said, I don't have a sphere of influence. I don't know anybody. I said, well, start asking the senior agents to work their open houses. Ask them if you could keep the leads. And he was able to build a diverse, robust database with that. And it was constantly working open houses, constantly networking, knocking on doors, doing all of those things to get leads because he had more time than money. And my senior agents sit there and say, well, I don't have that type of time, but I want those new leads. Great. It's time to pay for some lead flow. It's time. Maybe you don't want to pay for lead flow. Maybe you want to utilize your sphere. Well, ask yourself this question. Will my sphere of influence and my referral network give me 10 to 15 leads per month? And if the answer is no, you know what you have to do. And the answer is yes. Amazing. How do we create that to be a scalable and repeatable process? Maybe you need help with newsletters and you don't want to focus on those billable hours. Great. We have done for you services run by Heather Babbitt. And those are the things to keep in mind, right? Be honest with yourself and with your time and with your money. Be honest with your time, yourself, and your money. Now let's talk about it. Bad leads. What's a bad lead, right? Before I said there's no such thing as a bad lead. There's no such thing. And here I posted bad leads with no one different than Mickey Mouse himself. Right? Mickey Mouse himself. Yes, check the chat. Heather's new link. This is awesome. Definitely check it out. Mickey Mouse himself. What does that mean? What does that mean, a Mickey Mouse lead? Well, that means someone put in their information as Mickey Mouse or Donald Duck or Batman, right? Something like that. Someone put it in. We often find this, especially when people are doing home valuations. Now think about this for a second. Home valuations. They want to know what their home is worth. They go ahead and they put in their real address, their real email, fake name, fake phone number. Guess what? We have some meat on the bone here. And that is exciting. We have some meat on the bone because we have their real address and we have their real email. Because they want to know what their home is worth. They do. They just didn't want to be bothered. They don't want you to call them. But guess what? Based on our terms and conditions, you can. But how do you get that information? How do you get that information? I used to use Spokio. My team used Spokio. You can use White Pages. There's other great services out there that provide this for you. But I want you to think about this as not necessarily as a bad lead or an incomplete lead even. Because think about your job as a real estate professional. Aren't you always piecing together parts of the story? Right? That's what we do as real estate professionals. We're piecing together, adding until we have a complete picture. And that's when we are able to truly help someone sell or buy their next home. This is not different. Think about it. I was on the phone with an agent this morning and we were talking about this. And he was saying, like, when he gets a husband on the phone and they says, oh, I'm gonna have my wife, Lauren, look this over. We added that piece. There's the wife, Lauren. How many kids? It's kids. What's Lauren's email? We have Lauren's email. Let's carbon copy her on some of these search alerts, on these market reports. All right, we start to add them. Let's add her as a contact. Let's get her on some automation. We're building that story out. When we get a Mickey Mouse lead and there's some meat on the bone, we can generally start to build off of that, utilizing these tools and all of those home valuations or seller leads that you might have seen. And you're like, well, I only got the address. I don't have anything else. Oh my God, we have it now. Maybe you use Remine and start to build that story out. And that bad lead isn't so bad anymore. Well, let's talk about speed to lead. I brought it up before. Speed to lead. Now, I said before that it's not that important. Well, I'm going to go back to the statistic I gave you before. 85% of real estate agents by year one are no longer in the business. 99% are gone by year three. I'm going to give you a real scenario that happened to one of my team members. We got a phone call from a guy named Brett. Brett was ready to buy a home. Unfortunately, Brett had a friend named Joe, who was a real estate agent for 6 months. He felt guilty working with us. And what he ended up doing was giving his business to Joe. Joe ended up selling him his first home. This was in 2019. Put him in the database. We kept sending him our search alerts, kept sending him market reports, kept him on the automations, kept him on our newsletter. He subscribed to our blog. We kept him informed. Wouldn't you know it, that in 2021, already, Joe was out of the business, back selling pharmaceuticals or something like that. But at this point in time, the house that he bought, he felt pressured into buying because of how low the interest rates were. But it wasn't the right fit. It wasn't the right area. He was unhappy with the school district, on and on. He needed to sell his home and buy another one. We kept him in our pipeline the whole time. It didn't matter in that moment how fast we were able to get to Brett. What mattered was that we kept engaging him and we kept doing it. That is the most important thing. This is a true life story of the tortoise and the hare. Now, I'm not saying being the hare is bad here, but you have to recognize that most likely this person does know somebody else. And most likely that person they know will be out of the business in 3 years. So how do we combat speed to lead? Well, the system will do the speed to lead for you, right? We could automate that. But what you have to be cognizant of is providing consistent value day over day, week over week, month over month, year over year. Again, if you have questions on how to do that, I want to create a campaign that does this, and I'm too busy. I can't do it. Heather's team could do that for you. Use that link she provided you. That's really important. Because what are we talking about here, folks, right? We're talking about real estate as a long-term relationship. It's a long-term relationship. It's not just about that transaction. When we think of this as a long-term thing, it becomes a game of lasting. It becomes a game of lasting. And I understand that not everybody here will buy with me. Not everybody here will sell with me. But if I believe that I am their real estate resource for life, then I will see amazing things happen. I'm going to give you a statistic that I think will really help you. Really help you. When we look at conversion rate, right? I always hate the conversation of conversion rate because it's subjective. It depends on your systems. It depends on you. It depends on how busy you are. It depends on a lot of things, a lot of dynamics in this. What truly matters at the end of the day isn't how great of a converter you are. It's how great of a follow-up person you are. That's what it really matters. How much do you believe in a long-term relationship versus a transactional relationship? Are you committed to real estate or just interested in it, as Tom Ferry would say, right? And we're all committed that are here today. So I want you to keep this in mind. I want you to keep this in mind. And here's the stat. On Zillow, a great Zillow converter will convert at 10%. A great Google converter will convert around 2 to 3%. An average agent on Zillow converts 4 to 5. Average, right? I would say good to average to good. On Google, it's about 1%. Think about this, right? I'm saying that's success, but let's talk about failure. Let's talk about failure. We always ignore failure. That means that 95 to 99% of the time, the good to great online lead converters are failing. But let's redefine failure, right? Let's redefine what failure actually means. It means that the people that you connected with are just not ready to transact with you yet. That's all that means. And if we're committed to long-term relationships, it doesn't matter as much. And that's where it gets really important. Because it doesn't matter that they're not ready to convert today. What matters is that we're following up with them because we believe in them as long-term relationships, and they will convert eventually. And now I'm going to change your mindset about the way you think about leads in general. Every lead is a seller lead. Wait a second, Brant, that doesn't make sense. This is a buyer lead. These are buyer programs. Zillow's buyers, Google's buyers, they're all buyers or renters, whatever. Yep. But we're not thinking like every other agent. We're thinking of long-term relationships. We're thinking of lifetime value. That person is eventually going to buy a home. Maybe with you, maybe with their friend that's only going to be in the industry for a year or 2 or 3. But after that, they'll become a seller. And if we think of that, we start to realize that our databases are full of sellers, full of sellers. Some of them just are unrealized potential. Some of them are just unrealized sellers. But eventually, they will become them. And again, if we're thinking about this long term, we'll start to understand that our database is the best place to increase value for our sellers. And this starts to help those folks that hate online leads because they're full of buyers. No, they're full of sellers. They're full of sellers who just don't know when. And it's our job as real estate professionals to find that out. And here's a little bit of a nerdy kind of humor. Those of you who don't know who this is the Highlander, right? But this is a bit of a zero-sum game that we're playing here. There can only be one. There can only be one. And I know that my job as a real estate professional is to provide an immense amount of value, because what are we doing as real estate professionals, right? We're selling, what are we selling really at the end of the day? We're not actually selling homes. We're selling our knowledge and our skills. Our knowledge and our skills. That's what we're selling as real estate professionals. And we know that our job is to outperform and outlast the competition, because that's what's going to lead to more and more and more and more referral business over time. We know that. We know, now you know, if you didn't before, that all these leads in my database, in our databases, are seller leads who may transact initially with someone else, but long-term, they will continue to transact with me because I'm going to outlast the person they bought their first home with, or their second home with, or sold their first home with. I'm going to start to outlast them, outperform them, because I'm bringing 2 things to every conversation: curiosity and urgency every single time. And as I do that, I become more and more and more relevant. And as I continue to grow how I think and scale my database out in this context, I start to realize that if we're playing a game of Survivor, I'm going to be the last one left on the island, and that's going to be good, because that's what it's going to enable me to grow my business. Now, I'm not saying don't cultivate your friendships and your relationships and your network. Of course you do that. Of course you do that. because that's what helps you grow. That's what helps you know about coming soons, etc. But having the context in your mind that my goal is to think about everyone as a seller lead. Think about every lead as a good lead. Know that if there's any meat on the bone I could work at, and knowing that most of my competitors, or what I view as competitors, will not last as long as me, then you will start to realize that you can take any online lead and turn them into an amazing long-term relationship. So I want to share that. I want to open it up the Q&A for anyone who may have any questions or anything like that. The Q&A is open. I want to answer anything that you have based on what I said. And I know it's a little different than some of the other things that you've heard, but this is truly how my team was able to manage online leads and win. By the way, what was our conversion rate overall? We were converting, when I first got there, we were converting about 0.9% of all leads. When I left there, we were converting about 2.9% of all leads. That includes all Google and et cetera. On Zillow specifically, we were converting 7%. And we were on our way up to about 4.3%. That was our aim when I was still there. What questions do you all have? Put them in the Q&A. All right. Well, if there's no questions, I really hope you enjoyed talking about internet leads. And what I am going to leave you with is I'm going to give you some quick scripts that will help specifically with buyers. And I'll give you, first of all, when we get an online lead that comes in via phone call or request a showing, I always recommend same thing as Zillow recommends, ALM, appointment, location, motivation. But I always add these 2 questions on the end. And I hope that they help you. What's your timeline for moving? And do you need to sell in order to buy? And I'm going to emphasize when I say buy, I always use a downward inflection instead of an upward inflection. Do you need to sell in order to buy? This helps me understand based on the timeline question what their true motivation looks like. And by asking if they need to sell in order to buy, it helps me understand where they are in the process. Now, again, I'm using that for informational purposes only. I really do want to schedule a meeting. That's all I ask on the first call, and then I meet them. No pre-approval, nothing. I wait on that. And unless the house requires a pre-approval, then that's a different conversation. If someone's in the beginning stages of their journey, and I notice that, I'm going to ask a very simple question. I'm going to keep it high level. And all I'm going to ask is, what did you notice about the homes you were seeing that you liked? Very top level. Anything stand out to you about the homes you saw online? Good, bad, or ugly? Something like that. And they're in the deciding phase. I'm going to ask a little more pointed questions. What's important about this area, this home that you're looking at? What would you like in your next home? Again, more pointed questions versus that person that's actually shopping. I'm going to ask the ALM question with the timeline and do you need to sell in order to buy? Great. Well, again, I hope everybody enjoyed it. My name is Brant Levine. I'm the Director of Account Management. Again, before here, I was the Director of Sales and Ops for a high-producing real estate team in New York. And I hope that that was informative and helpful and helps you with your mindset and your team's mindsets when you are addressing internet leads going forward. Have an awesome one, folks. Great. See you later.